theme song goes. Once it's done, we will begin.
So how do I...
So we're on the just go to the Comics and Comics Facebook page, and then it should be the top thing right now.
So wait, I have to download Twitter? Is that what you're saying?
Facebook. Good times, everyone. Hello, how's it going? This is Comics on Comics, and this is our San Diego Comic Con episode, wrap-up episode. This past weekend, San Diego Comic Con happened, and I'm sure we all had an amazing time.
Yes.
So
Always.
why don't we start? We'll introduce our first guest down at the end. We have comedian and host of Film Comedy Nerds.
Close. Comedy Film Nerds.
Comedy Film Nerds. And has been to San Diego Comic Con over 10 times.
At least.
And what year was your first one?
Let's see. Late 90s?
Wow.
Late 90s?
Yeah, 99, around there. Mm-hmm.
Good times.
Yeah.
And
it was before it got crazy. It was when I'm like, oh, it's kind of crowded here.
Yeah, you can still buy tickets at the door.
Yeah, and there wasn't a giant line outside of Hall H that started 2 days before. That didn't exist back then.
No, it's like 4 days before.
Yeah. Oh, is it? Oh, see, it even increased now.
Absolutely. So, and then we have SATINE Phoenix. She has been to San Diego Comic Con 6 times.
At least.
At least 6 times. And what year was your first one?
It was like either 2009, 2010. Well, I guess it's 2016. So 2010 is the answer to that question.
Nice. So you've gone 6 years in a row.
Yeah, at first it was just playing because I like to frolic about and dress up, cosplay, but now it's work, but it's delicious work.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
And we'll definitely talk about that transition in a moment. And then we have Mom, and you've been at Comic-Con 4 times?
Yeah,
thereabouts?
my first Comic-Con was in 2003, then again in 2007, and then finally 15 and 16 this year, so.
Nice.
Yeah.
And I had a show at Comic-Con. My 6th show, the 6th episode of Comics on Comics was this weekend at San Diego Comic-Con, and my very first Comic-Con was in '93.
What?
Oh, yeah. Earliest one.
You just got the...
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
Took
like
that
the new guy.
with you.
Yeah.
I was about 13 years old, and I've been about 16 or 17 times. I've missed quite a few.
It's actually a great story when you
We're
talk
the
about
same
how you
age.
and your brother went.
Yes.
You told it on Comedy Film Nerds. Maybe you should tell it here.
Yeah. Well, you know, my brother and I, he was 11, and I had to beg my mom to allow my brother and I to go from LA to San Diego by ourselves.
By yourself?
On the train.
Oh my god.
And after much pleading, she finally allowed it to happen, and it was the most amazing day. It really was.
That's a different time.
It was. I can't imagine many. How old are your kids, Chris?
11 and 8.
11 and 8. All right. So you know, in a couple of years, would you allow both of them to go by
No,
themselves?
I don't even want my 11-year-old to have a phone, let alone go anywhere by herself. So.
So what was the thing that you remember most about that first Comic-Con?
The very first Comic-Con, there are 2 moments that stick out in my mind. One is seeing Jack Kirby for the first time.
Nice.
Oh my god.
Knowing that is Jack Kirby, mainly because I see him, you know, walking down the aisle, and everybody just like coming up to him and then like just bouncing off.
Right.
You know, it was just like all these people, like he was attracting all of these people, and then they would just bounce off of him,
Mm-hmm.
and he just had this smile, and he was walking down, and the fact that I knew who he was, I was like, wow, that is amazing. And then the other second memorable moment was there was a transvestite rogue who was walking around, and I thought that was kind of cool. Oh look, that's cool, transvestite rogue.
Ahead of his time.
Definitely ahead of his time, and I believe security also believed he was ahead of his time.
No.
And he was bum rushed out of the convention.
Wow.
It's the 90s,
yeah.
we're confused.
Yes, it was '93. I imagine somebody somewhere complained, and he was rushed out of there.
Maybe your mom called down to the convention.
I wouldn't put that past her. You know, she was calling to make sure I was okay.
Yeah.
Every 5 minutes, so there were no cell phones, so you know, probably get a hold of somebody. But it was amazing, and one of the things I definitely remember is the lack of women.
Really?
There were very few women in attendance. Clearly, very few women actually working the floor, and the reason why I know that is because it was very conspicuous years later when women began to populate everything.
Oh,
So-
that's
Did
because
you
of the
think some-
memo. I don't know if you
Is
know,
that-
they put a memo saying that we weren't allowed to go till 2005.
Yeah.
That's you know, there was a no girls allowed sign.
Did you think something was wrong when they started appearing? Like
It smells better in there, so no, actually. But it was definitely
cigars like wow, never women for never.
exactly. You
No,
know,
ma'am.
Yeah.
women just it wasn't something that they were doing at the time, and this is like early '90s, so I imagine it was infinitely worse in the '80s and the '70s and things like that. But now we have, I believe at the Women in Comics panel, there was saying something like, when they started the Women in Comics panel 6-7 years ago, there were 0 female writers heading comic books, and now there's something.
Who was
like,
on the panel?
Right. I have no idea.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I don't know, Vertigo editors or something. But now there are something like 30, 40, and leading their own titles.
Right.
Oh yeah, like even G. Willow Wilson got her own spotlight this year. Actually, she's the writer for Ms. Marvel and stuff. So I mean, it was really cool because when I went to the spotlight, I mean, the room was completely filled with young women. I mean, it was like women in their early 20s and their teens, and it was just like really incredible. The kind of like excitement in the room about this comic that like changed the face of comic books in general.
And so, it's a room full of these young women. They're all like cosplay, and I saw pictures from it.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, it was great. There was actually a transvestite Miss Marvel there as well, Kamala Khan, and it was really interesting just how passionately G. Willow Wilson was talking about like what she was doing and how invested everyone was in the room and what she was bringing to the table and stuff and how important her voice, because she is a Muslim woman in a predominantly male field, so it was just really nice to get her perspective on things in the industry.
So, tell me, let's see, we'll start with you, Chris.
Yes.
What was your experience at this year's Comic-Con? What did you do?
Sometimes what I do is I kind of do my work in the first couple days, and then I drive back, and then I bring my family down for Sunday. But it was so crowded last year Sunday, I said, well, they wanted to come for preview night on Wednesday, and I'm thinking, oh, well, that won't be as crowded as Sunday. No, it was. It was really crowded. So I brought them down, walked the floor with my family on Wednesday, so I kind of took that day off. And then Thursday, we had a dinner with Kickstarter. So they bought us dinner of the comic creators that have done stuff on Kickstarter.
Oh,
And
okay.
so it was cool. I got to hook up with Jimmy Palmiotti again, who I hadn't seen for years since I was on your panel at the Long Beach Comic Con.
Oh, wow.
So I hadn't seen him for a while. And then I did my panel that I do every year. I do Rick Myers' superhero kung fu movie extravaganza.
Yes.
So Graham and I, it's one of the longest panels at Comic Con. It starts at 8 and it goes to 10:30.
Nice.
And it's always Thursday night. And we just watch upcoming kung fu movies, like trailers and little clips, and it's so much fun. It's really fun. And then there's other stunt choreographers, martial artists on the panel. It's a really fun panel. We get to do it every year.
Great. And Satine, what do you do at San Diego Comic-Con?
Well, lately I've had a booth last year and this year for New Praetorians, my graphic novel series. So last year I just pushed one book. This time, oh my God, I cried. It's like such a girl. I have 3 graphic novels and a nonfiction on writing. It's called Action Heroine's Journey. So I'm sitting there, like, I had my crew helping me out. For like the first day, it was like preview night. I sat there and I worked. And then the next day, it's like I networked. I had meetings, and it was really exciting because, like, it's more than just comics for me. It's
Right.
like, I want it to go bigger. I want to have TV shows. I want to distribution and all that. So it was work. I was exhausted in a weird way that was nutty. And then Sunday I hung out at the booth the entire day, and it was busy like a Saturday. I sold so many books. It was great.
So
Sunday's no longer, quote, Sunday, when
Yeah.
there's less people there.
Right.
There's still a ton of people
Well,
on Sunday.
yeah, well, I think because it's more of an entertainment thing now versus the comic book thing it used to be.
Mhm.
Now people are like, they go to the halls, they go to the panels, and then Sunday they freak out because they're like, oh, I actually came here to buy stuff. So they go in. I mean, it was.
What exclusives are still left? I need to get them now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually have a question. So how is tabling at Comic-Con different from tabling at like other conventions in your experience?
Has to be more expensive.
It's
A.
way more expensive, but it's part of like the marketing fee.
Yeah.
You know, like having a place there. Well, like the more product you have, the better, because then you're making more money because people buy, you know, bulk versus one at a time.
Yeah.
So you end up making more, and like next year I'll have 7 books,
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
then I like it. The thing runs itself.
Nice.
But it's really hard. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
But as a fan, I have a very safe place to be behind the crowds. Like I don't know if you saw when I walked in, I got really high heels because I have a lot of anxiety in crowds. So I have to stand above everybody in order to see and not freak out.
Uh-huh.
So having a booth is nice. I can sit and draw, do commissions, and hang out.
That's cool.
You got your own little space.
Get a little personal space, yeah.
Yeah, in this huge scene.
Well, you know, like as a comic creator, as a writer and illustrator, all I do is sit by myself. And
Yeah.
then I go outside to the con and I'm with everybody, and it's like, that's hard transition. I mean, I'm barely recovered. It's Thursday.
Oh yeah, no, I'm dead. I'm still physically dead. I'm sure you guys are tired as well.
Yes.
You know, Comic-Con is this amazing time, but it literally drains everything you have.
Yeah.
You know.
Yes.
You need a recovery day at least.
Week.
For one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Mom, what did you do? At Comic-Con?
So I'm part of the Los Angeles Women's Comics Creators League. We're also known as the Ladybugs. And so this year we got to put together a panel on how to build a comic creator community. So me and a bunch of the Ladybugs, we just basically talked about what we've learned in creating a safe space for creators to get together and have fun and that sort of thing. A lot of the Ladybugs ended up having portfolio reviews, and they got a lot of positive feedback back on it. So we're hoping that they can go ahead and start breaking into the industry. And yeah, I mean, I basically hung out and passed out because we just came out with our anthology. And so I went around the floor and passed it out to most of the publishers. And the cool thing about Comic-Con is like all the editors and publishers that you dream about meeting are right there. You know,
Yeah.
like I got to meet Shannon Waters, who's the editor for Lumberjanes, and that was incredible. Being able to just walk up to her and say, hey, this is who I am and this is what I'm doing. What do you think? And get feedback right then and there.
That is awesome.
Yeah, so that was a lot of fun. And we also got to do some signings with Prism. So Prism Comics is a organization for putting a spotlight on LGBTQAI comics and creators. So we got to hang out with them, and it was a lot of fun being able to meet a really diverse set of people who are attending Comic-Con.
Sweet. And how many people were at your signing? Like, how many people were signing your anthology?
Oh gosh, we had a lot of people. They only had room for maybe 2 or 3 of us, and we brought like 5 or 6. So we just all huddled around this tiny table, like, here, we're women making comic books. Please buy this, you know. And it was great to connect. Like, we got to connect with some women who are doing, I guess, like pinup drawings for other women, and they have spaces all over the world for this. So we got to hook up with them, and hopefully we can do an event with them pretty soon. So,
Sweet.
That sounds so cool.
yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I had no idea that anyone was doing that now.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
literally just in my cave by myself.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, there's other women out there that I can talk to about being a cave dweller.
Yeah, exactly. We meet on Thursday nights, so yeah, if you want.
You just went, oh yeah, I'm busy.
Yes. Awkward.
Yeah, I can't make it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome because there has been this huge explosion of women not only attending but creating, and you guys are able to ride that wave of you know, people being accepting of this. It's no longer a weird thing. Like, oh, what are you
Yeah.
weird?
And also, like, right now there's a zeitgeist over this, but part of our mission is, like, once the zeitgeist is quote-unquote, like, over in, like, 10, 15 years, like, just to make sure that we're still there. Like, it's really awesome that we have more women appearing within comics and stuff, like Female Thor and Miss Marvel and Captain Marvel, but
Iron Man.
yeah, and Iron Man. Oh my god, I'm excited about that. But I mean, it really needs to continue. Like, there needs to be women in the industry, like, period. And we're seeing that with Kelly Sue DeConnick. We're seeing that with like G. Willow Wilson and Annie Wu. But just to make sure that things continue, like that we don't end up regressing back to where we were like 30 years ago. You know, where it's just the boys' club.
And I can't imagine we'd get back there. You know, just seeing Comic-Con from '93, to 2016. It's I can't imagine we'd ever slip back into those kinds of dark ages.
Yeah, and that was I know Comic-Con started getting like huge back like right around when Twilight hit, right?
Well, I mean, it's always been getting.
All right, to be fair, that wasn't fair.
Yeah. In '93, we had Image Comics, right? And Image is with the rise of Image and the rise of the indie comics of the '90s. That is kind of when Comic-Con exploded out also. The previous explosion was the black and white boom of '84, and
it was also an explosion when all the studios figured it out that they could preview movies and TV shows.
Right, and actually in '93 was the first time movie studios were at Comic-Con. Well, technically Star Wars was at the very first Comic-Con, but in '93, the Time Machine actually they didn't have a booth, but they actually had the Time Machine with Guy Pearce, I believe, right? That movie. So they had the Time Machine, and they had the exact same set that they had a few months earlier at Show West, which is a movie industry or for movie distributors convention. So with that, slowly but surely, they started start bringing things from Show West onto the show floor. I distinctly remember one year Sci-Fi had this huge like purple two-story blobby type thing, and that was the exact same thing that they had at other conventions. They were just beginning to now bring it to Comic-Con because they had the space. They had people who were checking out the movies, and then movies started getting panel spaces, and they started to release all kinds of cool stuff. I believe it was this year, however, it was the lowest amount of movies that had panels. I believe it was like 11, they said. But what did you guys think of the crowds? Like, compared to other times that you were there? Chris, what did you think?
I just think every time I'm there, it seems like it's more crowded. Like, even like the slower times, like Sundays or Wednesday night are now becoming like Saturdays. And even like outside the con now, like, they have like a Suicide Squad like enclosure that they were building Wednesday night. It wasn't even open until Thursday. And my kids were like, oh, that sounds cool. I'd like to walk in that. I'm like, well, do you want to wait 5 hours? Do you want it? And I'm like, no. But that kind of thing where, they build the entire town of South Park there. But the problem is, it's like the lines are so long, you can't really get to see and enjoy everything. Like, there was one, I think, saucer spinner ride for, like, Timeless. I think that people could get on because it would make a lot of people dizzy. So that I think my kids actually were able to go on while I was at the panel. But like, there's a lot of cool things. Like, you see a fraction of what's actually at Comic-Con. I mean, there's so many things not in the convention floor anymore. The surrounding hotels have panels. Like Petco Park, that parking area has enclosures. Like
the library.
The library has stuff. Yeah, we went through the Evil Dead house at the Petco Park. The parking lot, which was really cool. Again, not a long line, because sometimes people don't know that stuff is actually over there.
Yeah.
But anything near the convention or in sight from the convention is packed.
Yeah. I mean, trying to find a place to eat.
Yeah, but I don't even know how you would manage that. It's like, well, how do you make it smaller? Like there were a talk of like building out the convention center onto the water, but then that got halted through a lawsuit, so that's not happening right now. But that's the only way you could do it. You have to literally create more space.
Yeah, and every time that they've expanded the convention center, Comic-Con fills it out immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
And they keep trying to they're slowly taking over more and more space.
Now, since you're kind of an expert on Comic-Con, Juan, what's the reason why they don't add days?
I believe the reason, because there has been talk before of making it 2 weekends. I believe it would just be cost prohibitive for the retailers, for the vendors.
I see.
It's just there's no way, getting Comic-Con is already such a money sink, and you may or may not make your money back. If you were to extend that by 3 or 4 days, there's no way you you would also guarantee you get the revenue for being there 3 or 4 days. I wish there would be a solution like make it into the 2 weekends, but then not everybody would be there one weekend or the other, and then I guess it would just get crazy.
I was thinking like if it starts Wednesday night, start it Tuesday night or something like add a day on either end. You think would that be a huge cost? You think? Comic-Con expert one.
Because here's the thing. So to set up your booth, don't you show up to Monday night? You can start setting up.
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah. So Monday, Tuesday, you start setting up, and then if you move that even earlier, then people start showing up Sunday.
Right.
And you're already extending, and you're throwing things at it.
All right, you make fair points, Juan.
Well, it's. I wish there could be a better solution, right? The convention floor is getting more cluttered. So I was talking to some vendors on the floor, and the way they compared this Comic-Con was people who are there have 4-day passes. They kind of save their money until Sunday, and then on Sunday they realize, oh, I've got all this money burning a hole in my pocket. Things are on sale now. Let me now start spending all my money. He was talking to people throughout the week, and he was saying that there were less cool panels to see this year. General pop culture panels and movies. So less people were then
Except
waiting.
for ours.
Right. Oh, absolutely. I know. I was packed.
Yeah, we have plenty of people.
But there weren't like huge movies. There was no Twilight, right? There was no Harry Potter or things like that.
Well, they didn't do like a giant Guardians of the Galaxy thing or anything. Right?
Yeah. Marvel had their trailers for their TV shows and stuff, and some movies, but nothing. Other than Brie Larson being Captain Marvel, nothing huge came out of that panel, right?
But I think that, Marvel had Chris Pratt and some of the Guardians of the Galaxy people at the Marvel booth. But
They did a huge signing, yeah.
Yeah, but what I've heard is that, people have crunched the numbers and it just doesn't make fiscal sense to even go to Comic-Con. Like, I'm not even sure why Marvel and DC, like, do you know whether or not they're actually turning a profit on what they're doing there? Or?
No, they never have, right? So Marvel...
And it would be hard to kind of get the data on that. Like all the people at Comic-Con, did they go see that movie later? How many friends did they tell?
Yeah.
Right.
What was the actual promotional reach of that event?
Yeah, and up until about 3 years ago, it's not like Marvel was selling anything. So they just had artist signings, and they had, you can see props. It wasn't until a few years ago where you were actually able to buy special hoodies and T-shirts, and now they have the pin sets from Scotty Young. Right? So these are now things that people are going to buy from them, and at DC, I don't think they sell anything. So it's not like they use this to sell something or make a profit that way. DC has always had a booth there, and they use it to meet people in the industry, to look at portfolios and things like that. So that is why they use it now.
I think Comic-Con has become sort of a status thing. Like make it bigness is if you're performing or doing something at Comic-Con. So like
Bigger booth, more zombies.
Yeah. Everybody wants to do something at Comic-Con, right?
Yeah.
Because they feel that is where most of the geek eyeballs are, and the most of the trendsetters. So if you see something cool at Comic-Con, you're going to tell your friends, and then they're going to tell their friends, and hopefully you get some sort of push that way.
And there's stuff you buy there that you could never buy anywhere else.
Yes.
Like, all right, what's the coolest thing you bought at Comic-Con?
Well, every year I buy the Planeswalkers for Magic. So this year I waited 16 hours in line.
Nerd.
Yes, I'm a total nerd. I didn't.
The whole time,
Spoiler alert. Yeah.
How do you wait 16 hours in a line? Is there like a line holder, like for you to go to the bathroom and eat? And how does that work?
Okay, so there's a group of us, right? And
you
we've
take
now
turns.
done this. This is now the third time we've done this. We bring tables, we bring chairs,
Right.
We have sleeping bags.
Professional.
Yeah,
you're professional line waiters.
and we make it fun.
Yeah.
We're playing games, we're meeting people,
Right.
And that's part of the fun is meeting all these new people because you're surrounded and you're there together for 10.
And it also you see people that like do this all the time. Like I saw it even for like the lines for like Suicide Squad and the other like walkthrough stuff outside the con. It was just people with like you're saying their own chairs. They were just like, yeah, well, this is what we do when we come to Comic-Con. They were like camping.
Oh
I
yeah,
have a
stuff
special
like
Tom chair. It folds up. It's like a little camping chair, and it folds up into this little tiny tube. And so anytime I want to get a signature this is from before. Anytime I want to get a signature, I get in line and just sit.
Yeah.
Oh
Finding a seat at Comic-Con is a premium.
Yes.
And one of the things that really struck me this year was all the people who were sitting on the floors.
Yeah, there was a lot in the exhibitor hall. It was becoming a problem, and because they had a seating area for like the food people, and Prism was right there, so we got to see how there would be a group that would start sitting down, and more would sit down, and more would sit down. And some guy would be like, no, get up,
Yeah,
and then
you can't sit there.
yeah,
It's
it's
not
just a
safe.
constant cycle.
Keep buying things. Get up, buy things.
but
Also
it's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy that they've actually allowed it. There are people just sitting there, and security is not saying anything. For years, elite security would just be like, nope, stand up, move, keep moving. Now, there was one year that it was particularly bad, and that's probably why elite no longer does it, because they were like all Marines and ex-Marines and stuff.
Nerds, get up!
Exactly. I'm sure finally people were like, oh, well, maybe we shouldn't have Marines pushing
Don't
people
yell
around.
at the nerds, they're sensitive.
Yeah. But now there are people sitting everywhere, and I thought that was definitely a welcome change.
Yes.
Because there are no seats everywhere. They almost deliberately remove all of the seats.
But you know what?
Keep it going. Keep the flow.
The
Yeah.
fact that so many people are going to Comic-Con not for comic books, I kind of find kind of nice, because that means all the comic book panels are pretty open and easy to get into.
Sure.
So like for example, Jim Lee does a couple panels there every year where he draws
He
and
does the
stuff.
spotlight, yeah.
And it was pretty easy to get in. You don't need to line up that far in advance in order to get into
That's
his
one
panel.
perspective on that.
I know, right? But at least they make an effort to allow professionals into Comic-Con for free to
Right.
keep it in the spirit of what it was originally intended
Although
for.
it's harder to do that now too, and then I heard they're capping the professionals now too.
Oh, really?
Like I used to just show my WGA card, and then I would get a professional badge. I wouldn't even have to renew it. They would send it to me every couple of years, and then that all ended.
They used to have that thing called Trickster, where comic
Yeah.
creators, artists, mostly artists, lots of writers would get together, and it went on while the convention was happening. There'd be live drawing classes and theme nights and drinking, and it was a way for all the creators to get together, and it was this really cool, fun thing. And then it stopped last year, and it wasn't there this year.
Too
And
expensive.
Yeah.
maybe they upped
Yeah.
the price for all the rent, but there was
Yeah.
for me, I felt that once that went away, it stopped being a comic book convention. And even I could feel it sitting behind my table, between last year and this year. Last year there was a lot more people that were looking for books. Now it was people who I met last year looking at my books, coming back because they're excited. But most people are looking for fan art or exclusives. I mean, people have to make their money back. And so people
Yes.
are waiting in line, buying multiples
toys,
of
yeah.
exclusives, selling it for 5 times, which is great for them, as awesome. But then I have to wait for that exclusive to stop in order for people to start walking around to come to
The other
past
thing
my booth.
that makes that irritating is what if you just want the exclusive? You actually just want it. You're not going to sell it, and then all of a sudden, all these people that are reselling it, then they get the inventory.
Right, which sucks. Which is why I choose to wait 16 hours in line rather than pay 3 times the price. So I wait 16 hours in line. I was able to buy it for $108, and I'm going to play with them.
But that 16
Would it be
hours is taken
$300?
away from you walking around the floor
Well,
and
luckily
running into.
This is all over at night, right? So it's not like I'm losing anything. There's no opportunity.
So would
cost.
those cards go up for $300 each on eBay?
Yeah. So I looked at the prices right now. They're each individual card on average would have been $20, right? Buying them by the box. The minimum right now is $50 for one.
Wow.
And and one is $100.
I'm in the wrong
So,
business.
yeah, no, I mean that's the thing, and that is why it was difficult to get, because everybody who was in that Hasbro line was going to get, they were going to get their thing and the Magic, because
Right.
that's easy to flip.
Mm-hmm.
And there are many exclusives, and then there are people like Hasbro who then have stopped doing exclusives on the floor, and they're like, all right, these are San Diego Comic-Con exclusives that we're only going to sell on the website.
Yeah, that's so weird.
Yeah.
Oh, when did that
And
start?
they do it ahead of
This
time
year.
too. They
Yeah.
tell you
Really?
exactly ahead of time what is the exclusive.
So then what
you
are
can
people waiting in
excite-
line for
excite-
then?
So the main thing that people are waiting in line for at Comic-Con is Funko.
Oh no, I meant specifically that if they're putting
Oh.
the exclusives online, why are there still lines at the booth?
Yeah, well, they are selling some things, right? But
Uh-huh.
there are 9 big exclusive ones. Those are on the website, and and then they've got a bunch of smaller things.
Right.
The reasons they have said is, it costs a lot to freight all of that stuff to San Diego.
Aww.
Right?
Sorry, billion-dollar toy company. I feel so bad for you.
Yeah, it costs space to warehouse all that stuff for Comic-Con. So that's
It's
why they
true
decided.
though.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's like really true. Man, between the freight, between the warehousing, even just moving things in and out. Oh my goodness, I have stories for you. I probably shouldn't say on there. I couldn't believe the cost. Like it's mind-boggling the cost.
Okay, so how much is your booth? Just to
Money?
get the booth. Yeah. So it's like
Plus over $1,000.
so let's say $1,000.
We'll just say that it's not true, but
Sure,
over
right.
that.
So we'll say it's $1,000, and then you bring in what, like $500 worth of merch, right? That you sell, and
Well,
then
no,
just
actually.
Okay.
So when I order my books, one book I order, or we're talking numbers.
Right,
Here.
yeah.
So I order from this awesome company, Print Ninja,
Mhm.
and I do about 1,200 books to 1,500 books, and that lasts me a little while.
Okay.
That's what $3,500 plus shipping.
Mm.
So like almost $4,000 for that one
Okay.
set.
Wow.
And now I have 3 books. And this is over time, like 3
Right.
books a year, whatever. But that's money. And then I have all the T-shirts, and those are what, $7 to $11 each. And you have to get like 20 or 40 of those per size, and it all adds up. All the merch adds up. So you end up spending like thousands of dollars, and you hope to sell half of it
Mhm.
if you're lucky. Sometimes you're not that lucky.
Then you bring it back.
Yeah, but you can use them for other conventions and stuff too.
right.
But it's like,
It's not
But
like I
just
can
to be
only sell
there?
these at Comic-Con.
no,
I mean, it's
yeah,
like
but
keep
to
the
be
inventory.
there, you want the inventory.
Right.
So that's the investment, and then the shipping.
But
yeah.
do you think that the networking and the marketing benefits of going to Comic-Con outweigh like
Oh,
the
yeah,
cost?
by
Oh,
far.
okay.
You can do a lot of networking there for sure.
I couldn't
I
believe
mean,
it. It
there's
was
also
weird.
more podcasters there. Like I rented the Steel Saunders from Steel Wars,
Mm.
like crossing the street, and he had his like Zoom with him, so we like did a quick podcast like on the corner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, and,
Yeah.
and I believe it was last year they segregated all of the podcasters into the library. So this year again, if you have a podcast at Comic-Con, that is where you've been moved to. Now we've always billed ourselves as a live show at Comic-Con, so we're not affected that way. But there are like the Lost podcast, I believe, which was the longest running podcast that had a panel space at Comic-Con. They were moved to
Wow.
to the
Maybe because Lost isn't on the air anymore.
maybe yeah. I mean, clearly, I don't know how they can still keep getting a panel.
Yeah.
That
The Lost in Space panel got moved.
Yeah.
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 That was the other thing. So I moderated the Stalking LeVar panel.
Mm.
It was at the library. I had no idea how far it was. So I stepped away from my booth at 12:30 to make it there by 1,
Mhm.
and I barely got there in time. I didn't even get back to my booth till 5.
Where is it?
It was a
How
1
far
hour-
away is it?
It's on the other side of the park.
It's like
It's
Petco Park.
Wait, I gotta say, that library is the coolest
Oh,
It looks
library.
amazing though, doesn't
Couldn't
it?
believe-
Yeah.
I was all mad. I walk in and I look
Yeah.
up and I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, it's all you concrete and glass everywhere.
And then like the windows have like they're in the shape of books.
Oh, whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's
that's really
awesome.
cool.
Yeah.
But I mean, they have so many events at the library now. Like one of the Ladybugs is releasing a Sherlock themed board game, and so they had a Sherlock party there that you had to buy tickets for in order to go, and we didn't know, so we were just walking up like it's the library. You can just go. No, you can't just go.
No,
Like,
You can't just go anywhere. It's Comic-Con.
yeah.
Right.
It's just super. I mean, it's just so exclusive to get in, but like when you're there, you don't know half the stuff that's going on. Like I didn't even see the
How
Wonder
did you
Woman.
find out
Right.
about any of it?
I know, it's insane.
Yeah.
But that's also why there's less parking, because all the little parking lots get taken over by like enclosures and other
Yeah.
things too. Like I'm like, oh, there's parking lots all around my hotel.
No,
And you get there and nope, they're all like been commandeered by booths and whatever.
And if they haven't, then it's $100.
Right.
Exactly.
Really? Good
Yeah.
lord.
Dude,
Yeah.
thank God for the metro. Like we took the metro in, and it was great. You know.
Without that shuttle system, I can't imagine how Comic-Con would function.
Yes.
Yeah.
That shuttle system that they create every year from scratch is amazing.
Well, I drove in with my family, so we paid. We paid through the nose for parking.
Yeah, and it's like, well, do I want to walk 5 miles to my car,
Yeah.
or do I want to spend $100?
Right.
It's
$300 is what I accidentally spent.
What?
I valeted, but the moment I landed, I had to go and do all these things. So every night afterwards, I was like, well, maybe I just need to go and get my car out of valet. Well, but I have to make this thing in like 5 minutes, and it kept doing that. And then all of a sudden, it was Sunday, and I'm like,
Oh my God.
Yeah, $280.
Wow.
That's
Was it at least washed?
Yeah.
No, it wasn't.
Oh man.
The little secrets that like people don't really talk about this part of Comic-Con because it's fun and it's totally worth it. And even if I didn't have a booth, I would still go and spend that much money.
But yeah. And you know, it's like I can never justify spending, you know, $40 on a meal. But at Comic-Con, you're like, I have to, you know. And
that's the only restaurant you can get in.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and like they nickel and dime you everywhere, but you're just like, well, you know, fine, I'll have the $12 slice of pizza.
And
I was so mad. I was at the Kickstarter dinner, and it was like appetizers, and then it was like the entree was coming out, and like Graham and I were like so hungry, but we had to get to our panel, so we kept looking at each other like, do you think the entree is going to come out in time? And then they brought the plates for the entree, and then we gotta go. So we asked them to bring our dinners to the panel, but just
They refused. Oh, that sucks.
But I mean, just the sheer amount of opportunity that comes out at Comic-Con for creators, especially for people who are creating original content. Just like being able to meet people who can, you know, give them that open that door to their first, you know, real gig. Like that's incredible. It's just insane how the comic community just really invigorates the creators that get into it.
I think it's really important what you're doing, like because there's a disconnect now, except for like being an artist who's a fan of another artist and walking up to their table and talking to them one-on-one. But what you're doing is bringing artists together so they can actually powwow and talk and be
and
more
work together and
peers.
collaborate
Yeah.
too.
And you know what? I was just thinking about, because like I originally got into comic books through anime and manga, and how huge anime and manga is. It's almost like this parallel universe that's going on within comics. But there's so much American talent in the anime and manga world, and at this point, I'm just like, how do we cross-pollinate without having like a Tokyo Pop
Make a
happen?
group.
You
Do
know?
it. Make another group.
Make a anti-Tokyo pop group. So,
Yeah, well, I mean, original language manga, OLM, is definitely very popular. It's probably less popular now as the manga boom has kind of subsided.
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
but you
kinda
still
gone
got to read
down.
it right to left, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, I was talking to someone at Tokyo Pop, and you know, I believe we were talking about Naruto. And, yeah, and you know, I asked them, I was like, so here's Naruto. It is this really long series. How do you keep it all in stock? How do you keep it all in print?
Right.
Like, you know, you're constantly having new people coming to the property, and you know, you're now printing issue 50, and then someone needs issue 20. Like, how can you do that? And she's like, we can't.
Yeah.
We can't keep it all in print.
It's a digital.
You know,
Yeah.
the digital would be the way to go. But you know, what is it? 6-7 years ago, they just couldn't.
Right.
And
So I was reading Attack on Titan, and there's like a ton of those.
Yeah.
And I love with the manga books where if you start left to right, there's like a warning, you're reading the wrong way. Flip it over.
Stop.
Yes.
Stop. Yeah, there's always an anime character going.
Yeah. It's always Naruto.
Yeah.
Turn around.
But I was surprised that, I mean, I think Viz has been there for such a long time at San Diego Comic-Con, but I was surprised that they were still there, that Viz is still around, you know? Like, I can see, like, with Marvel and DC, like, where there's, I mean, they're really hitting it big with the new series that are coming out, but, like, Viz, I mean, with the tanking of orders, like, that is huge, you know? So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know about Borders, but with Barnes and Noble, it's they're still around. But I worked at Barnes and Noble, and I saw the rise of comic books going from, you know, 1 or 2 rows to multiple shelves to a whole, you know, section.
Well, one of the ways, they're trying to stay in business is it's more comics, but then it's like more toys. You know, they want to do like a larger coffee shop, CDs, DVDs, and everything that killed Borders pretty much.
Yeah. We'll see how that's headed. But there has been, Satine, what was this year like in terms of sales for you compared to other years?
Well, because now I have more books, it was great. Yeah.
So if you only have one, it's
hard.
It's really hard.
Yeah, and And for me, like, nobody knew who I was. I just kind of came out of nowhere and was like, here's my booth. And I'm like, okay, lady.
Did you have people willing to, like jump into your series just like as a newcomer? Like, you're a new face, I'm going to take a chance in your book.
Yeah, there's all these people, and usually I would say over 30.
Oh,
Over 30, they come to the booth and they're like, I'm specifically looking for a new story by an independent artist or a writer. And so that was really amazing because I could pitch them my story and they're like, wow, it looks different, it sounds different, I'm really into this. And then the next year they came back and
so
we're like,
cool.
we loved it so much. I got my first cosplay.
What? Oh my
Oh,
god!
that's great.
Yeah.
That's so cool!
Well, the funny thing is, a guy surprised me, and he was like waiting at my booth the one of the days where I was spent working networking, and I get back, and he must have been there for hours,
Oh,
just
no.
waiting. And I was like, oh my gosh! So
What
like,
character was he dressed as?
the character's name is Burnett,
Mm-hmm.
and he's this like druggy janitor guy that works at the CERN super collider. And yeah, he gets this very specific superpower when this alien tech blasts. It's really cool.
Wait, can we hear your pitch on your story?
Oh no!
Yes!
And it doesn't come out. It's a female lead sci-fi revenge story about a woman who runs a special ops force looking for her mother's killer, who happens to be an international terrorist.
Oh,
And
dude.
right as she goes to get him, boom, this alien technology blasts the planet, and all these people are infused with this alien tech. And she's wearing this like really cool railgun system that like I was like I look
She
up.
has a railgun system?
Yeah, so she got it from DARPA, and like one of my things I love.
Like, yeah, she got it from DARPA.
She just like stole it from DARPA because she's like really cool, and they let her like use their experimental things. So she's like wearing it, and then this alien tech blasts it and embeds in her skin.
Oh, dude.
And so the whole thing starts off with her being tortured, and she's learning about her things. But it's also kind of like Heroes, where it takes place all over the world. So the first book takes place, where she's getting interrogated in Khorasan in the Middle East. The second book takes place in Geneva, in the CERN super collider, which is megalomaniac who owns like all the communications. It's like near future, 80
so
years
cool.
in the future. And the third book takes place in San Francisco in the science lab, where this scientist who is familiar with this alien technology, he's developing this teleportation thing. All this stuff is just what I nerd out on as a science nerd.
Oh, that's awesome!
And then I imagine what it would be like in 80 years. And
So it's the same world. The books are all in the same world.
yeah, it actually all takes place at the same moment.
Oh,
So
interesting.
you have all
wow.
these characters who are affected in the same moment, and then Sienna McKnight, she's the thread that holds them all together.
That's really cool. So what's your book called?
New Praetorians.
New Praetorian.
NEWPRAETORIANS.
And you can tell you've been saying that a lot because of how easily it just came out.
I'm
Well,
sold, man.
I had to learn, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
so we spent a year making the book.
Mhm.
Actually, not the book. 27 books.
Oh my
They're
god.
all written. I just have to go through and make each one. And it's 4 months to make each one.
Oh my god, 4 months is like short for
Yeah,
a book
that's pretty
too.
good.
Well, it's only 60 to 80 pages.
Only 60 to 80 pages
only.
in 4 months.
Well, like an issue is what, 20 to 25 pages? Working pages?
22. Well, slow down, Jack Kirby. Look at that.
I don't know how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah.
All I know is how I'm.
Not all artists work as quickly as you do. Let me just say that.
Definitely. Oh my gosh.
So yeah.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
That's so cool.
Thank you.
So, from previous year, well, I guess this was your first time with 3 books, right?
Yes.
Okay, so I mean, but you did well. Your book sold. Now, I definitely remember when I was a kid going to Comic Cons. That is definitely one of the things that I did. I would go out looking for brand new books from people I'd never seen before, never read before, because there was
You make a discovery. That's what's so cool.
there was this chance of discovery, and there was also this chance of back in the '90s, like I can buy something and it can go through the roof.
Yeah,
There was,
that whole collector thing. Well, if I
That's
get this
happening
issue
now
or something.
too, though.
Yeah.
I mean, there's all these properties that are getting developed, or at least optioned, even if they're not actually fulfilling the option. But I think Comic-Con specifically isn't about sales. It's more about like being there and networking.
Yeah.
All
And
the other
promotion.
and promotion.
Yeah.
All the other conventions Like that's where I actually get to talk to people, and there's way more people that come to my booths, and I get to spend time with them, and they get really fond of what I'm doing. Like we'll interact online. They're like, "Oh wow, Comic-Con's cool," because they know like my release schedule is WonderCon, Comic-Con, Comikaze.
Right. Yeah.
So they're like, "Oh well, I know you're going to be at this one. There's another book coming." Woo. But other than that, like it's dramatically different on the sales portion and the connection. Because I'm there because I want to connect with people. Like I said before, I'm by myself all day. So this is like plugging into the reader and hearing their feedback. You know, sometimes they love it, sometimes they're concerned about a thing. And that's, I wish it was more back to that.
Yeah.
Yes, we need more readers with concerns.
Or just communicating with them. And you know, it is fun, even if they don't agree with something, but they're fond of it. That
Yeah, you get dialogue.
Oh, it's so cool. It's like what I was wanting.
So I mean, other than someone actually cosplaying as one of your characters, which is probably one of the coolest moments.
I cried.
Know, right?
Like a baby all weekend. It was just like one magical moment to the next. So he went with one of my friends to dinner, right? Oh my God! I just have to share this. I'm sorry.
Absolutely, go for it.
Because I cried about this too. I got this text message, and my friend's like, "Yeah, this waitress, not our waitress, but a different waitress at another table, came up to the table and said, I recognize that cosplay. I know, what is that called? What is his name?" And she couldn't remember his name, but she said her sister got the book at a convention, and then she read it and fell in love with it, which means it must have been WonderCon because that one just came out. And they're like, "Do you want us to tell you?" She's like, "No. And then she's like, "Oh yeah, New Praetorians."
Nice.
Oh my God! It's a dream right there.
That is awesome.
Because you don't make it for that,
Right.
but when that happens, it's like, I have to keep going.
Yeah.
I have to keep making. I don't care if it doesn't sell at all ever again. I just have to keep making it.
Right.
And that's when the property becomes juicy. You know, when you're not worried about the money, when you're doing it because of the people, yourself, the fulfilling, the story, seeing it through, like,
That is
magic,
awesome.
man.
Yeah. No, I mean, yeah, there were a few times, you know, one in particular, I was getting on the shuttle to sit down, and then someone stopped me and goes, "Wait, are you Comics on Comics?" Right? And you know, I'm like, that is awesome, right? And I'm like, gotta keep it cool.
Yeah, you gotta play it down.
It is great.
Yes, I am.
That's one of the things I love about Comic-Con. Not only do you get recognized at Comic-Con, but also you run into people you haven't seen in a while. Like I always run into friends I haven't seen, maybe one they've moved to New York or whatever. They're always at Comic-Con, so we see it. And you know, you got to remember, there's over 100,000 people. What are the chances that you'll run into somebody? But you always do.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And like, it's very difficult to make plans with somebody. You know,
Yes.
And you're like, "Oh yeah, dude, I'll totally come by and I'll say hi and stuff," and then you just can't. You realize I'm 3 miles away, and I got 10 minutes to get there. Not gonna happen.
I feel like the only consistent plan at Comic-Con is the bars. Like, there's always a party happening somewhere. Someone is getting in the drinks.
Where do you go?
Yeah.
I usually go to a Comic Book Legal Defense Fund on Thursdays. And then on Friday there's usually some pop-up bar or pop-up party that someone's throwing. And then Saturdays, I didn't go to the Hyatt this year, but usually I go to the Hyatt because that's where everyone like burns out drinks and stuff, and like ugly drinks. Like,
It doesn't matter where you go, there'll be a party somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, whatever hotel or bar you end up in, like, oh yeah, this is the Audible party or whatever. You know, there'll be somebody who'll be having parties. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, on Thursday after the show, we hit up the Boom Party, you know, and you know we just drank and hung out there.
That's actually I like
got
Boom.
wasted.
Yeah.
I actually found a book from just browsing. That was like one of my comic book discoveries. I found Suicide Risk. Have you read that one?
No.
It's Mike Carey's book. It's really good.
Oh,
and
is
it was just laying out there. I'm like, oh, this looks really cool. It's a limited series, but it's about a cop in San Diego who realizes that in the entire world there's no superheroes, just supervillains. And whenever a superhero appears, they become a villain. So it's all a mystery on how that happens and what's going on with the world and parallel worlds and dimensions. It's called Suicide Risk.
Wow.
So then the cops are completely overwhelmed because there's only supervillains.
Huh.
So it's really cool.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the beauty of Comic-Con, the discovery. You know, Yeah, there are many books that I had picked up. Unfortunately, none of them went anywhere. The creators either stopped or they only put out that one issue. In the 90s, everybody was putting out limited edition ash cans of their book that was eventually going to come out. That just never did.
Right.
But that is one of the things that we get at Comic-Con is this chance for discovery, this chance of seeing something cool. There were a few people who were at my panel who had never been before. And they were just like, oh, check it out. It seemed interesting, the panel. And they checked it out, and they loved it. They absolutely loved it. And, I now have 2 fans forever.
That's awesome.
You know
what? There was a panel on Sunday, so
and they followed me home on the train.
It was weird.
And I guess they have it every year. It's like this panel where they argue about starships. Have you heard of that one?
Yeah.
And I just walked in not expecting anything, and I was just so blown away at the depth of knowledge about starships in there. It was really cool.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was long. Like I left, and I came back 2 hours later, and they were still good, like going and stuff.
Still arguing about warp cores.
Yeah.
Who would be who? No, and last year before my panel, there was in the room there were lawyers who were talking, and they were talking about like the legal ramifications in things like Star Wars. And there was one question I distinctly remember, and there was somebody in the audience who was asking about what could the Empire do to Princess Leia when she got caught at the beginning of the movie. And, they're like, oh, well, she's got diplomatic immunity and stuff like that. And they're like, well, yeah, but they found plans of the Rebel Starship, so that, that's state secrets that she had. And then they're like, oh, wait.
Technically, they didn't find them.
This is true. They keep going saying it was in the droids.
Yeah. Produce the body.
Right. But had they found state secrets in on that ship, then there's an argument that she could have been given the death penalty.
Dude, was Leia a terrorist?
No, totally good. Totally ISIS.
Exactly.
Really.
Well, Rogue One's going to explain how she got the plans.
Huh? Yeah. Well, I believe the Empire was monitoring many transmissions of that ship.
They're not her plans. They're her friends' plans.
Yeah, she's just holding them.
How did they get there?
Who knows? But we're running low on time now, unfortunately. Comic-Con was absolutely amazing. Are you guys going to be there again next year?
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. It's the 20th year anniversary of the Kung Fu movie extravaganza next year.
Oh,
wow!
Yeah. Now, we haven't done it every year, but Rick Myers has, and it's amazing. So it's going to be a big blowout next year for sure.
Wow.
But I will say the coolest thing I bought at Comic-Con, I think it was a year or 2 ago, I bought an Umbrella Corporation umbrella.
Oh, yeah!
Gotta keep yourself from that T-virus.
Exactly.
But you know what? I'm really excited about that Wonder Woman movie. Like the
Yeah,
trailer
it looks
that
great.
came out.
That trailer does look great.
So
Looks like the best
cool.
DC movie out of the slate.
I was really, really happy to see the Golden Lasso. I was just like, oh, that is so cool!
I didn't see it. I was working. What? Oh my god!
It shows up on
Shows
up on YouTube. What, minutes later after
Yeah.
it's
Yeah. And that's the best thing is they're no longer pretending to be mad that their footage got leaked.
I know.
Now they're just like, yeah, we get it. We'll
Yeah.
release it on our own.
I think Comic-Con HQ is now streaming like most of the panels, right, that are coming out at Comic-Con should
Well,
make it more
especially Hall H,
accessible.
I think, because people just can't get in.
Yeah.
I know something like Pokemon. That was the first time Pokemon Go was the first time a panel was able to get upgraded from just having a regular room into Hall H.
They have in there like, yeah, if you go to Hall H at this time, you'll get a Mew. Everybody went down and nobody got a Mew. It was a lie.
That's so sad.
Yeah, they were saying how they were going to release a legendary Pokemon in the room, and then nothing happened, and people were super salty.
It's super anticlimactic though. That
You
whole
know,
panel.
if they were smart, that company, because they must have heard that rumor, like, we should really do that.
People
Yeah.
left my booth to go.
To get a Mew.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's not cool.
Right, absolutely. But it was weird how Pokemon Go affected the Comic-Con, and we're now kind of out of time. But to see Pokemon Go happen at Comic-Con was crazy. I was in line again 16 hours. In the middle of the night, someone was like, "Oh, hey, there's a rare Pokemon around. I forget the name of it." and slowly you saw everybody turn on their phones.
Oh,
And, so and from darkness we went into the light, and then all of a sudden you hear people catching it. Like, oh, I got it!
That's
Oh, I got
really
it!
cool.
It was, as everybody around me was waking up in the middle of the night, catching Pokemon, then going back to sleep.
I really credit Pokemon Go with why I wasn't sore the entire time I was at Comic Con. Like, no, seriously, because I walked the crap out of my Pokemon. Like, that was before the con and stuff. So
Interesting.
yeah, it was really good. There was a lot going on in the gas lamp too.
Really? Yeah, I did
Always,
not get
yeah.
a chance to really use play Pokemon Go, but every time I opened up that screen, you saw it was just a sea of lures
Oh,
and
yeah.
everything like that. It was.
Yeah, you see it on some of the shops too. It's like Pokemon or whatever.
Yeah.
They would have you go into the store and because they would pay for that.
Yeah.
There's that new kind of advertising for Pokemon.
Yeah.
You could make your store like a hotspot or a lure. Or, I don't know how
We
this
could
technology
have a
works.
whole show on Pokemon.
We could have a whole show on
This is-
Pokemon, and I don't know, who knows? Maybe September, October, it could happen.
The psychology.
Maybe you'll get a legendary one.
Ooh, that'd be so cool.
I mean, there is a gym here, you know.
There is
that, right?
there's a gym here at the Improv. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
yeah.
Oh, we gotta take that over.
It's blue, unfortunately.
All right. Well, so guys, thank you guys for coming out. Chris, where can people find you and your work?
ComedyFilmNerds.com, but you can also go to ChrisJManciniOnline.com, and that actually also has a link to my Kickstarter it's finished, it's over, but it's for my comic graphic novel Long Ago and Far Away, so you could actually go to the link, see the video, and get like the preview pages, like 20 pages for a preview.
Cool.
And then if you bookmark the page, then we'll have pre-orders, and when it's actually done, we'll be selling it in probably January, but it's 140 pages, and even though the artist Fernando Pinto draws about as quickly as you, it's still about 150 pages he has to do.
Oh,
So,
Well, tell us what is your book about?
Long Ago and Far Away is kind of a twist on the Narnia stories, where a little boy goes into our a fantasy world, saves the world, and comes back. Well, this was what happens when he's 30. Runs a comic book store, he's an asshole, and then he has to go back in that world again, but then he just makes things worse because he's a jerk. So, and then he goes through his arc and finds himself again. But so it's Long Ago and Far Away.
Sold. You got
Cool.
Yeah. Satine, where can people find you and your work?
You can find me at Satine Phoenix on pretty much all of the social medias. Burning Quill is my company, burningquill.com. See all my art. newpraetorians.com. Buy New Praetorians. Amazon.com has all my books. Put the safety on and then Google Satine Phoenix.
Very well. Safe search on always.
So you can find me at momcomics.org, or you can find the Ladybugs at ladybugcomics.org as well. And we have our Ladybug anthology out right now, but we're coming out with another anthology with the Sketchy Bug group that's going to be coming out probably around Kamikaze about secrets. So go check it out.
Sweet. So Kamikaze is happening in October.
Yes.
And we will definitely be putting on a show there. I'm sure you will have a booth there.
No, I'm doing all Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh.
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
I do this thing called Celebrity Charity20.com, and we live stream celebrities playing Keith Baker's Eberron world of Dungeons and Dragons. So that's my other obsession.
Nice.
So that's going to be at Kamikaze.
Alrighty. So all kinds of fun stuff. You will be at Kamikaze.
Maybe, I'm not sure yet.
Maybe you'll be at
I
Kamikaze.
might still be
Play
recovering
Dungeons
from.
and Dragons.
Yeah.
I love Dungeons and Dragons, but might still be surviving from Podfest.
Oh,
in
that's
September.
right. Yeah. Podfest is coming up.
Yep, 23 to 25.
Tickets
September.
just went on sale. Yes.
No, they're on sale right now, but the early birds are sold out. But you could still get all the other ones right now. 3-day passes. We added like Welcome to Night Vale, Criminal. Guys, we effed just got booked. So and a lot of really cool shows.
And still at the Sofitel Hotel.
Sofitel Hotel in Los
It's
Angeles.
always a fun time, guys.
Mhm.
Absolutely, definitely check that out. You can find me at Comics on Comics on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram. We will be here next month talking about Suicide Squad, panel to be determined. I will be at Kamikaze, and I would definitely like to say thank you to one of my sponsors this past weekend, Chatterbait. They sponsored my videos on Saturday, and we had a really good time, and they will probably be sponsoring more things going forward. So thank you, Chatterbaits. Thank you guys, to everyone who caught us at San Diego Comic Con. And this has been Comics on Comics, the show where the greatest comic minds meet the greatest minds in comics.
Woo!